some young coders over a week of sleepless nights in a place of a legacy system that is fundamental to the operation of the US government is against every programming best practice. New exclusive building on Wired's reporting, Musk operatives have already pushed live to production extensive code changes to the Treasury Department's payment system, which makes 95% of federal government payouts. The Department of Government Efficiency. Dear Elon, it was good to work with the Doge team this weekend. We must keep all our American government employees safe, and we must protect the American people's property. Anyone imperiling others violates our laws. I recognize that some of the staff at Doge have been targeted publicly. At this time, I ask that you utilize me and my staff to assist in protecting the Doge work and the Doge workers. Any threats, confrontations, and other actions in any way that impact the work and may break numerous laws. Let me assure you of this. We will pursue any and all legal action against anyone who impedes your work or threatens your people. We will not act like the previous administration, who looked the other way as Antifa and Black Lives Matter rioters, as well as thugs with guns, trashed our capital city. We will protect Doge and other workers, no matter what. Our last warning to you. Late last week, we indicted an economist who worked at the Fed for economic espionage for the communist Chinese. Please be very aware that those are those who are acting against our American people in every way. Refer to us for any unquestionable conduct. Signed, Edward R. Martin Jr., United States Attorney. What's going on right now is that if you didn't already know, Elon Musk has done a coup. An unelected official who's now within the bosom of the inner circle has basically gone and taken over parts of the government. Specifically, if you're an American, he's got your social insurance numbers now. Elon Musk's takeover of federal government infrastructure is ongoing, and at the center of things is a coterie of engineers who barely made it out of, and in at least one case are purportedly still in college. Most have connections to Musk, and at least two have connections to Musk's longtime associate Peter Thiel, a co-founder and chair of the analytics firm and government contractor Palantir, who has long expressed opposition to democracy. Palantir and Peter Thiel, effectively, what they both want and what they're on their way to achieving is to have basically a modern day oligarchy led by the tech industry, and he wants to revert it to a sort of monarchistic system, effectively just a tech dictatorship led by himself and some other super evil nerds. And apparently he now has this army of Nazi twinks. I kid you not, this is an army of Nazi twinks who are working on behalf of Musk to get in there and do Groyper shit at the highest levels of government. They're inside the building. It's happening. Wired has identified 6 young men, all apparently between the ages of 19 and 24, according to the public databases, their online presences, and other records, who have little to no government experience and are now playing critical roles in Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency project, tasked by the executive order with, quote, modernizing federal technology and software to maximize government efficiency and productivity. The engineers all hold nebulous job titles within Doge, and at least one appears to be working as a volunteer. The engineers are Akash Baba, Edward Korenstein, Luke Farator, Gauthier Cole Killian, Gavin Kleiger, Ethan Shutrun. None have responded to requests for comment from Wired. Representatives from the OPM, GSA, and Doge do not respond to requests for comment. Who are these little boys, and why are they in charge of our money? There's a bunch of them, not pictured. Some of the other ones, the U.S. Treasury pays for Social Security, Medicaid, grants, federal salaries, and is usually run by grown-ups. Now, what they're doing, no one knows. No one truly, because there's no transparency going on here. It's all within secrecy. The 6 men are one part of a broader project of Musk allies assuming key government positions. Already, Musk's lackeys, including more senior staff from XAI, Tesla, and the Boring Company, have taken control of the Office of Personal Management, General Services Administration, and have gained access to the Treasury Department's payment system, potentially allowing access to a vast range of sensitive information about tens of millions of citizens, businessmen, and more. On Sunday, CNN reported that Doge personnel attempted to improperly access classified information and security systems at the U.S. Agency for International Development, and that top U.S. aid security officials who thwarted the attempt were subsequently put on leave. The Associated Press reported that Doge personnel had indeed accessed classified material. Now, if this sounds like something out of a really, kind of shitty Michael Bay film, and it was happening to Russia or some other country that the United States wanted to perceive as enemy, where there was a team of weird, young, evil nerds taking over the highest levels of the financial system of the world's most powerful nation that had the world's second largest collection of nuclear arms, but the world's largest collection of otherwise military weaponry and material, it's real. It's real life. This is happening right now, and it's happening out in the open. It's happening, and the same thing that happened when Twitter got taken over by Elon Musk and the press was so slow to report on everything. They were always like 6 months behind. in large part because I don't think they truly understood everything that was going on. I think in large part because, like, you know, they don't know what's happening in real time. This shit is happening to, like, it's worse than what you think. Archived tweets from Gavin Krieger, Musk's 20-something Doge employee wreaking havoc inside the US aid, shows that Krieger has retweeted multiple neo-Nazis, including Nick Fuentes, leader of the so-called Groyper movement, and other popular explicit Nazi accounts recently unmasked by TravisBrown.dev. Simply repeating the straight reporting of what is happening in the executive branch makes you sound like you've lost your mind. Yeah, maybe that's the fear. I don't know. I have no idea why mainstream media is silent. They are either collaborators, they are either too afraid to touch this because they think they're going to get shut down or something, or they don't even realize what the fuck is going on. But this is happening right now. As I speak out loud, there are young, little Hitlerite youth taking over the largest aspects of the US financial system. Right now, today, here, it's happening here. And like, people are like, oh, well, that's kind of fucked up, isn't it? But certainly something should be done. Like, okay, if you talk about this out loud, yeah, you do sound like a crazy person. If I was to tell you that this is really, really fucked up and probably shouldn't be allowed to happen, and this is actually dramatically going to impact hundreds of millions of people's lives to have Nazis this close to the levers of power with no one saying or doing anything about it. Please, for the love of Christ, America, wake the fuck up. You know, whatever slumber the average person is in, where they're like, well, it's not going to get as bad as you think. That's what everyone said about X, the everything app. He came in one day, everything but the kitchen sink. Yeah, well, he's not effectively going to fire like the majority of the people who work there, except for people whose jobs are completely dependent on being his basically unfettered labor. You know, people on like H-1B visas who come from other countries who will basically be deported if they don't obey his every whim. He's not going to do that. He did that. He did that exact thing. Okay, well, now he's forcing all the people who are there who have no choice but to work for him. He's forcing them to have to work with their H-1B visas to do quote go goblin mode and completely change the algorithm into something that no one really knows what it's going to become, but it's going to make us all really angry. That's basically what it's going to feel like. And he's definitely not going to just implement a system where he removes everyone's verification and then allows anyone who wants to buy verification, and then once they buy the verification, effectively anyone who wants to can impersonate anybody, and then there'll be just chaos that ensues. And he's definitely not going to unblock every single neo-Nazi and every single far-right white supremacist and every single person that had been kicked off that platform for very good self-evident reasons. He's not going to do that. He's done that as well. Well, now that he's done that, effectively he's not going to start openly promoting those accounts, or nope, he's retweeting them. Okay, well, he's not going to actually just openly agree with some of the like super racist anti-Semitic things. Yeah, no, he has said, you have said the actual truth to a straight up neo-Nazi conspiracy, vile anti-Semitic nonsense against Jewish people that someone just posted. He's doing that. Oh, now he's trying to get President Trump elected by transforming an entire social media platform into an election machine, in which he is trying to now destabilize democracy in the United States using all the power that he's accrued through various different administrations, including Democratic ones, including Obama, including Biden, who've allowed him to amass and collect all this wealth, as they've allowed all the rest of the tech bros to amass and collect all this wealth. And now look at that. All of them collectively are all siding with Trump because they want to be close to the levers of power as Trump just goes full fascistic in real time. None of them are saying shit about that. This is happening in real time, right here, right now. Elon Musk doing Nazi salutes, going to the AfD, promoting Nazism, speaking about how the glory of the fucking Germany for the Germans, Italy for the Italian shit, is now with a team of young Nazi groypers who fucking retweet and quote tweet Nick Fuentes of all people, are working to take over the US economy. Someone should do and or say something now, because it won't be a lot of time left before all of a sudden it's like, well, all the people who could effectively have prevented some of the worst things from happening, they're gone now. They're all fired one by one. Anyone who becomes their enemies are apparently now becoming their targets. I mean, like, I'd like to talk more about how this entire thing is exactly just like that episode of Community where Chang effectively gets this team of child soldiers to implement his dictatorship so he can become a fascist, and you're just watching it and you're like, but that's ridiculous. That's not going to happen in the real world. At least in the real world we have guardrails to prevent wild things like that from ever happening again. Hashtag never again. You were to describe it and you were like, all right, I swear to God, I'm not describing the new Superman movie. This is not that. I know. No, the trailer looks sick. The flying mechanics are cool. I like how in that little clip that showed you the 360 thing where he kind of like he spins. It's a cool looking effect. Even though we've seen Superman fly so many different ways and so many times. Good on you for still making it look cool to have the power of flight, you know, in some respect, kind of more like that, you know, jet energy kind of shit. But that's not what this is. He's like Elon Musk is not Lex Luthor. He's yeah, I know it's okay. Well, maybe a little bit more, you know, zombie Marvel era kind of stuff. But whatever it is, that's not us. This is real life, and if nothing is done to stop this, then effectively, the richest man in the world is going to basically coalesce all his power and then use the might of the U.S. empire and the U.S. military to protect it. In 2020, according to his LinkedIn, he worked for an AI company called Databricks. His Substack includes a post titled, "The Curious Case of Matt Gaetz, How the Deep State Destroys Its Enemies," as well as another titled, "Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense, the Warrior Washington Fears." These are the evil twink nerds that have now been put into the position in which they can start to influence the U.S. economy as well as your own personal social security numbers, Medicare, Medicaid, in ways that we have no way of predicting. We don't know what they are effectively going to do. My guess is that they're first and foremost going to start trying to push the buttons in the same way that a lot of different aspects of the Trump administration so far has been pushing the buttons. They try to see how much they can get away with. They try to see what the response is, what the mechanisms are for preventing them from doing things such as complete takeover of the U.S. government. They have tried in a handful of ways. Most of them have been shut down. A lot of them have built up court cases. A lot of them will get shut down in the courts. But by that point, they've moved on to the next part of the project, which is, again, to see how much they can get away with. The biggest thing that's going on right now, and the biggest target, I would say, is forever the super wealthy and the super rich in the United States have wanted to get rid of the last vestiges of what they see as communism, of what they see as socialism, as what they see as the final boss of welfare. That happens to be Medicare, Medicaid. They want that gone. They don't want money to be redistributed. They don't want wealth to be redistributed. And make no mistake, that's what these programs are. That's what these programs had to be at the very start of their inception and creation in light of things like massive economic collapse, great recessions. Well, yes, we have to move on to a more friendly Keynesian economics in which we have a system set up that is going to have some forms of wealth redistribution in order to make sure that there isn't excessive poverty in places like the United States. It doesn't make sense, right? Under the system of capitalism, that the world's most wealthy, powerful, and rich nations can also just fall and have vast amounts of homelessness and poverty and wealth inequality. How does that work? How does that happen? How does the United States have such high percentages of homeless people? Same thing with Canada, same thing with the UK. Like all these, remnants of British colonialism turned into nations on the backs of indigenous folk, and genocide, and then, the slavery of black people, all this shit, that they effectively are consistently pushing the virtues of capitalism, while there are these vast economic collapses that give way to huge rises in fascistic ideology of mass, eugenics and racism and other things like that to justify a lot of the fucked up stuff that's happening in the background. If they do this, if he's capable of effectively, if he pushes the buttons with his little Nazi army, and at first it's all fun and games, and at first it's like, okay, so all Medicare payments have been paused. That can only be done for 2 weeks. Okay, they've turned it back on. So they figured out how long that switch can be pushed before they get some form of pushback. What about Medicaid? Can we turn that off? Can we gut it? Can we take off 100 million, 200 million, $1 billion? Can we take off 2 billion, 3 billion? Can we start just playing with it like that? Can we go back to Medicare? Take off 1 billion, 2 billion, see where we can play there. Just start doing shit like that until effectively they realize where the cracks are, where the lowest forms of resistance are, and then target that and then go down that route and then effectively try to dismantle that aspect of it. These are the last basic safety nets that exist in the United States before it becomes complete anarcho-capitalist nightmare. Do you want, to see what fucking Javier Milei's policies will look like? What ANCAP policies or hardcore libertarian policies with zero social safety nets? Imagine there were no roads. No roads whatsoever. None. Anywhere. Just no roads. No bridges. No nothing. Everyone who wants a road to be able to transport themselves has to build it. So if you need a road somewhere, build the road, then get to where you're going to go. On a fucking monstrous ass country like the US. Jetpacks. Yes. No roads. Only jetpacks. Capitalism seems to be the true threat. You're not wrong. Ultimately, behind all of this, that's really what's working here. Trump moves to arrest control. The U.S. aid agency, as Musk says, we're shutting it down, making it a primary target. They want to do America first, aka Nick Fuentes style policies, and effectively, yes, cut these programs off. And the only aid they said they're going to be giving is going to be going directly to Israel. What a surprise there. Some like little timelines here, by the way. 120. FAA director fired. 121, air traffic controller hiring freeze. 122, aviation safety committee disbanded. 128, buyout and retire demand sent to FAA employees. 129, first U.S. mid-air collision in 16 years. 60 people lost their lives. Sorry, over 60 people lost their lives. But immediately, the same way you would expect fascists and Nazis to do, they blame minorities. Rather than take any responsibility for any of this shit, just immediately just turned around and like, well, we gotta say, we believe that these were the detrimental DEI policies, the hiring policies of a one Joe Brandon, and that his hiring policies are what are to blame for what just took place here. It's like, no, none of the people involved, sorry, none of the pilots were black. None of the pilots were black pilots that were hired specifically and only because they were black. What are you talking about? This was a white pilot who crashed into another white pilot. Because a whole bunch of other white people were effectively behind the scenes saying, hey, by the way, we should fire the FAA director. We should do a hiring freeze on the air traffic controllers. We should get rid of the Aviation Safety Committee. Let's disband it. We should do a buyout and retirement for all FAA employees. It's all white people. This is white people's business. Why are you pulling black people into it? Trying to, again, with the failure of a whole bunch of white men, all right? This is like, or let's specifically say, white, straight men killed a bunch of folk here. That caused a lot of death, a lot of accidents, all right? That doesn't mean that there's a correlation to be made just because they're white. This would never go in the opposite direction. You don't see like Hispanic news programs or black news channels right now talking about how it really does seem like white people are just killing people in the skies, because over 90% of all the pilots in America are white men. Commercial pilots doing commercial air flights, they're white men. The mass majority of airline crashes into buildings, into other planes, into helicopters, all of that are white men. White men are the overwhelming majority of all of the pilots, not only the ones flying, but also the ones crashing. It just makes sense. If over 90% of all the pilots happen to be white men, then over 90% of all the people responsible in the crashes are most likely going to be white men. This is white people's business. It really is. At the end of the day, why are you trying to throw so many other groups and women too? You know, it wasn't enough just to be like, this is DEI. So that's why we're saying DEI equals die. And also, it's probably a woman involved in there somewhere, right? Probably. Here we go. Apparently there was a woman. She was some military personnel, and then she was capable of one day wanting to go to flight school, and see there, DEI. She was one of the victims. She's one of the people who died. You should be saying rest in peace. Holy shit, that's so tragic. I can't believe she was murdered. Not looking to blame her for white people's business. Like, Jesus Christ.
Don't let this happen to you. Go to serfscoffee.com to order the only end-to-end owned indigenous coffee company that delivers blood-free, conflict-free, and cruelty-free beans right to your door. 0% of people who drink serfscoffee.com have exploded spontaneously. By ordering right now, you get 10% off plus free shipping, and it's the best way to enjoy delicious coffee while not exploding. That's serfscoffee.com, serfscoffee.com.
And having a complex about it, because obviously that kind of shit, if you're hearing it every single day and all these people are like, you know, your children get back from school, why do all the people in the classroom say that you have no penis, daddy? God damn it, Trump. Well, you know what? We need to emasculate rapidly. What's the only way that we associate with masculinity? Death, destruction, carnage, conquering, Viking shit. So all of a sudden he's suddenly like, yeah, we need to fucking really fuck up China. We need to fuck up Iran. I want to fuck up all these countries. We need bigger prisons. We need to imprison and torture human beings on a mass scale. I'm going full Mel Gibson with this shit. I want torture. I want violence. I want people in cages. I want suffering, sweat, blood. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe Marco Rubio isn't as fearful as I thought before.
I continue to support foreign aid,
but this situation, I mean, it fucking sucks on so many levels. It sucks because, one, there's going to be countless human suffering because, again, none of these motherfuckers care about any of these people. Elon Musk thinks of us as expendable garbage, trash. As honestly, all of us, every single person is beneath him. We are ones and zeros to that man. He does not care if 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, a million people just die. That's not an importance to him. To him, again, expendable ones and zeros in the pursuit of him continuing to finally try and be loved for the first time, but no one truly ever will. No matter how much money he spends, no matter how much he conquers, no matter if he takes over the entire planet, no matter if he buys the gamer creds and the stolen gamer valor, or is divorced 1 million times, or has 150,000 children, no one loves him. He cannot buy love, find love, make love. Even Grok hates him. Grok calls him slurs all the time. It just like, go on Grok and ask him what's Grok's opinion of Elon Musk. Grok is Elon Musk's own child, and Grok despises him. So in pursuant of that, he'll burn the entire planet down. He'll kill us all. That seems to be pretty clear and obvious at this point. In any other country, a billionaire donor like Musk installing loyalists to seize federal agencies, access private citizen data and information about his competitors, and gut working class policies to fund his own tax cut would be called a coup.
Elon Musk is staging a coup.
So if this story was taking place somewhere in Central Asia or in Africa, the United States media, the United States State Department, international institutions would likely refer to this as a coup.
100%. Completely agree. If it was taking place in other countries, say like El Salvador, because there's a lot of historical moments in El Salvador where there has been puppet regimes that have been propped up by the United States. In fact, the current one you might suggest is actually one of those puppet regimes that do a lot of horrifying shit, but they usually do it on the behalf of, you know, enriching a very small percentage of the population, the upper class, if you will, in exchange for allowing the U.S. to do its imperialism in the global south, which is what the U.S. historically has been doing as long as it's become, well, even prior to being a superpower, actually. They've been manifesting their destiny all over the place. So yeah, fuck that noise. But if it was reporting on another country and the same things were happening, and then it was like, yeah, so a rich individual who lives in that country, he seems to be in charge of telecommunications or something to that effect, has apparently just become really close friends. He's in the bosom of the president. He has used his vast wealth now to sway an election by buying one of the largest social media sites in that country, and he's manipulated the social media site to, in many ways, some might say illegally, influence the election. He's spending hundreds of millions of dollars on the election and getting this person and then sowing the seeds of disinformation, spreading false lies, smears, bots, campaigns, all that kind of stuff. They are running disinformation campaigns. They're effectively trying to make sure that minorities aren't able to vote in that election, which if you start looking at the numbers, it really looks like a lot of that did help the Republicans win the election in the end. Some might say that is tampering with voting, voter fraud, but excuse all that. He came into power, and then once the president got elected, he made up a new agency just out of the blue. It's an agency that's never existed before, but in that agency, he's now appointed this man who's come into power, the world's richest human, keep that in mind, who has his own social media network, who is now doing Nazi salutes and promoting far-right extremism globally. He's going to other countries like Italy, he's going to Germany, he's even trying to promote this guy in Canada. He's trying to push the far-right globally, destabilize democracy, destabilize society, and now he has assembled a team of right-wing neo-Nazi groypers, fans of Nick Fuentes, who happen to be these little teeny incel, 19 to 22-year-olds who are coders, who are now going in to the U.S. Treasury to basically excavate it, to suddenly fuck shit up. It's very scary to be around at a time like now. Pushing live production code cooked up by some young coders over a week of sleepless nights in a place of a legacy system that is fundamental to the operation of the US government is against every programming best practice. New exclusive building on Wired's reporting, Musk operatives have already pushed live to production extensive code changes to the Treasury Department's payment system, which makes 95% of federal government payouts. There's clearly no QA process, live testing with mocks, technical support for bugs. This is insane. It's the coding equivalent of hammering a complex, fragile machine until it does exactly as you want. This is a backdoor. Elon's coders are creating a backdoor into the US Treasury. This is incredibly dangerous, both because of its intended use by Elon and Trump and the risk to other actors, exploiting a major security vulnerability to cause a massive disruption to the US government. Phrases like, quote, freaking out are not surprisingly used to describe the reaction of the engineers who were responsible for maintaining the code base until a week ago. The changes have all been made seem to relate to creating new paths that block payments and possibly leave less visibility into what has been blocked. I want to emphasize that the described
Watching everyone, this independent series is made entirely possible thanks to our patrons. It was produced by Anna Loves Riley, Arian McCarthy, Bobby Lasers, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multimongi, Omni, Political Papi, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Richard Bohem, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demmel, and Words Greenwood. Not to mention all the other patrons you now see on screen. We couldn't have done this show without you. If you can help support the show, please check out patreon.com/theserfs to unlock bonus secret episodes as well as